This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Cory Botti from Lockern Digital. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Shannon. Great to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Could you start by introducing yourself a little bit? I know I just did an introduction, but you might do it a little better than me. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything in your professional journey that you think is relevant, and, how you became to found Lockern?
Sure, absolutely. So I have been in the digital marketing space for about 12 or 13 years now. I started in the agency world working for some big agencies out there. And then back in 2019, I kind of just took a look in the mirror and thought maybe I can do it myself. I found that a lot of big agencies were complacent, and there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape at these big agencies. I felt like I would be on an account and it wouldn't matter if I saved that account 50,000 or overspent that account by 50,000, kind of at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. And, I thought if I created an agency where we would have more empathy and have more integrity towards our clients and not really hide behind data, that we could actually really perform well. And then, that success for myself would come kind of just naturally. So that's what I did. In 2019, I quit my job and I started the company Lockern Digital. Lockern is just the street I grew up on. There's nothing really special about the meeting other than it's my parents' house. You can see the street sign right behind me. I just thought it sounded strong and powerful, and people like that it's a personal touch. And I now tell them that it's where I grew up. So yeah, that's how the company started. We specialized in paid media, paid ads across Google, Meta, Bing, TikTok, Reddit, pretty much the whole gamut of media platforms. We also specialize in email marketing, CTV, and a little bit of landing page development, just because, at the end of the day, you're going to be doing a lot of marketing for your clients. They need good, robust landing pages to drive that traffic. So we kind of just started doing that. We've been around for 5 years now. We probably have about 30 or 35 clients. We've had, of course, our challenges throughout the years, but also lots of success. And the fact that I'm still standing here today after 5 years, I think is a testament to something. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far, and I wouldn't really trade in anything for the world right now.
Well, congratulations. And I think that it's really great to get to the 5-year mark is amazing, because I think that every agency is looking for like that 5-year mark and that 10-year mark. So That is a testament that you're still here today. So congratulations on that, and amazing on you.
He told me once in passing that your business doesn't start until you hit your 5 years. And I said to that, I just hit my 5 years, and they're like, congratulations, your business just started. So, it's funny, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of truth in that, because it takes a long time to just kind of find out who you are, where your strengths are, your weaknesses, your pitfalls, where you can see more future growth. And it feels interesting to say that I feel like I really am just getting started, even though it has been 5 years. So, it's a good saying.
Oh, that's incredible. And that must be a really great learning experience. Like, what do you think was something that you would tell other people that are starting out that you wish you'd known?
That's a good question. I would say the biggest challenge has been a lot of the macro factors that you can't control. I started the business thinking that everything was going to be in my control: the clients I bring on, the employees that I work with, the people that I interact with. And there's just so many factors that are outside of my control that in the past I've been very disheartened by, that now I've become almost jaded to it, or desensitized to it, where, something happens because, like, for example, a company goes bankrupt, right? I mean, my client, but what am I supposed to do? They're bankrupt now, and that's the end of it. Or, if I have a real estate client and, the housing market's not doing well and interest rates are really high and they can't close houses, a lot of clients tell me I'm an amazing agency and we're great at what we do, but, the results are just not translating for whatever, economic headwinds, business headwinds. I mean, there's just so many different macro factors that kind of play into things that I don't really have control over. So the advice I would give is to kind of bake that into your forecasting and also understand that there are things that are just out of your control that you're not going to be able to really have a sense on. So at that end of the day, you got to just focus on things that you can control, that, the industries maybe that you go after, or the type of services that you do, or the people that you interact with. Like those are the things you can control. And I think that's much more important than lamenting about the things that you can't control that a client left you because of something that happened on their end, or, there was fraud, or, an employee's mother got sick and they have to quit. Like, I mean, there's just so many things that I can't control that in the past really frustrated me. And now I feel like I've gotten much more mature and pragmatic about it.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to adjust to those things as well. Is there anything that you think people should look out for or anticipate when in those situations? Or do you think that there's a way in which um, you said something you touched on a little bit about implementing some kind of procedures in your process to adjust for that? What would you recommend doing?
Yeah, I think, it can be as simple as just baking in attrition, right? So if you think that you have 20 clients to start the year, I think it'd be naive to think that, of course, sales outside of that, but just like your current clients, I think it'd be naive to think that you're going to retain all 20 clients by the end of the
Mhm.
year. So I think you could automatically forecast some attrition, which is like losing some clients, whether it's, because you just couldn't perform for them or because of those macroeconomic factors that I mentioned prior, right? If you could bake that into your forecasting, I think you'll be better off in a position to kind of understand where your numbers are, how your business is growing, where your pitfalls are, what you need to do to order to maintain that level of revenue that you're accustomed to, right? Because again, in the past, I think I'm doing really well from a retention standpoint, and then the end of the year comes and, 3 clients leave for whatever reason, and it kind of really messes up your forecasting. So I think a good piece of
Mhm.
advice, something that I'll try to do this year, is just bake that into the forecasting, right? Yeah, bake in that retention, bake in that attrition, bake in, employees coming and going, and other things like that.
That makes a lot of sense. I Do you then take in a bit more clients than you would have as your normal goal just in case that happens?
That used to be a big selling point for us in the past, where
Mhm.
we would kind of work with anybody because we figured, hey, look, we're skilled marketers and they're skilled at their position. If we just collaborate, we're going to have good success. But we've kind of taken a step back from that approach this year. I know it's only, 7 days into the year so far, but we're trying to look at things a little bit differently this year and go after clients that maybe fit a certain ICP, which is an ideal customer profile. So I think that rather than going after everybody and everybody, we're really focusing on people that kind of hit a certain criteria, and that criteria really falls into like 3 different categories. One, they worked with an agency in the past. I find that it's much easier to work with a client who has some perspective of what
Mhm.
it's like to work with an agency rather than someone who's doing it for the very first time. It's, might take advantage of you because they don't really know, uh, you know, what they have hit with
Yeah.
myself. And then another or 2 other ICP qualifications would be that they've run digital marketing in the past, right? So it's not like this is a brand new thing for them. Then they have, a sizable revenue. I don't think it makes sense to really work with companies only doing $100,000 in revenue. It's just not going to be a good fit. I think if somebody's at that $1 million mark, it makes sense to kind of start thinking about digital marketing, thinking about investing, some of your revenue back into the business from a marketing standpoint, and work with an agency like myself. But, I do think the big takeaway is they have to have an agency in the past. It
Yeah, of
feels
course.
it feels good when you win business from a prior agency.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And it's also something that you can analyze and adjust for. Like, oh, what did you not like about your previous experience that
Exactly.
you're going to a new agency?
Exactly. It's one of the
How can you
questions you
remedy
want.
that?
Yep. Yep.
That's
Yep. We'll also do some audits as well. And it's easier to audit in an account that already had an agency because they can be like, oh, this is what they did right. So they did wrong. I'm not trying to throw that agency under the bus or anything, but it's just a good opportunity for us to pinpoint some inefficiencies, some areas of opportunity, some room for growth. And then again, once we do start working with that client, they have perspective because then they can either say, wow, you're a lot better than my other agency, or you're a lot worse, right? They're going to have perspectives.
How what is the thing that you see most that previous agencies that come to you have done incorrectly?
That's a good question. I would say the actual optimizations within the ad account. I can't tell you how many times I can go into an ad account and look at the change history and see that, the current agency is only in there once a week, once a month. And if they are in there more frequently, they're making very superficial changes, like just raising a budget cap. I don't really think it's an optimization tactic to go into Google Ads and just change a budget from $50 to $75. That's just like adhering to budget pacing. So I would say that a lot of agencies probably kind of set it and forget it, where they'll just build an account. It's in good standing. It's running, it's purring nicely. And then they just kind of, let it run by itself and check in on it once every so often. I believe that it does require constant optimizations, pivoting, analyses, whether it's adding search terms, looking at negatives, adjusting bid strategies, adding new keywords, changing ad copy. I mean, there's always something that you could be doing. I believe that it's a very proactive industry to be in. So if you're just sitting around waiting for your client to ask you a question, you're not really going to get the results that you want versus being very proactive on the account and constantly bringing new ideas to the client. I think is another way for them to believe that, if they pick the right agency, they're not going to just get up and leave because they think they can do it themselves now.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I think that a lot of agencies might be complacent, like they created a good strategy and that's all they believe that they have to do. Whereas
Yep.
there are definitely I'm certain that there are companies that only want that because they wanna take it from
Mhm.
there. Um, and I think that those are probably some of the biggest companies because especially with brand, loyalty, a lot of people are just complacent with, a product or a service, and they will go to that immediately because that's just how, you know, being known does work. But I think that um, for smaller businesses or medium-sized businesses, and even large businesses that aren't those huge corporations that you think of, will need a long-term strategy that's constantly adjusting. And there are even very large corporations that are susceptible to being complacent and then lose revenue because they're
Absolutely.
so satisfied with, their approach that they don't account for the market that's constantly
Yeah, I
fluctuating.
mean, it's ever changing landscape, right? So
Mhm.
I feel that marketing is not a sprint; it's a marathon, right? It never ends. It's always evolving. It's constantly growing and changing. I mean, Google themselves is releasing new products and betas and initiatives all the time. Things are getting sunsetted. Things go away. I mean, PMEX didn't exist 2 years ago, and now this year, enhanced CPCs are going away, right? Or call ads. So, like, if you're running these old things and you're stuck in the past, you're not really going to get that benefit anymore that you might have had previously. In fact, one of the accounts I recently audited was still on expanded text ads, and they're with an agency. And I'm like, the expanded text ads hasn't existed for like 2 or 3 years. So like your agency either just isn't looking at this anymore, or they're just stuck in the past and they're not changing with the times. So I think that's a big thing that can separate myself from other agencies. Another quick one, not as prolific as the previous one I just mentioned, but still impactful nonetheless, is account managers. A lot of agencies or clients that I work with will have an agency and they put a junior person on the account, and then 6 months later it's a new junior person, and then 6 months after that it's another junior person, right?
Mhm.
And they don't have that longevity and that rapport with one account manager that they feel they can trust. They have peace of mind with, and that has the experience to guide them in the right direction. In fact, one of the clients that we just one a couple of months ago, I asked him, hey, what can we do differently than your previous agency? He's like, don't change the person on my account every 4 months. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that I can do.
Yeah, I think it's really important to I think that when someone is hiring someone else to do a service for them, they have to trust them, and it's very difficult to trust something that is ever changing. I think that other outside of the market that is ever changing, which someone would expect, to have a different person that they're speaking to every time they have a concern is a very difficult thing to navigate. And most people would prefer to go to one person for, I think, most services, just
Right.
because they understand their situation. To have someone come in and have to re-understand all of these factors that go into a company, it doesn't feel like an extension of their company, which I think is the ideal service that people want from an agency that they're putting their trust in, is to feel like they're an extension of their company and they care about it as much as they
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. I try to be their partner, not just another agency, right? I mean, that's what I tell the people all the time. I'm your partner. I'm trying to be your collaborative partner. I'm trying to help you think outside the box. It does backfire a little bit. Sometimes clients will think I'm a business consultant, and I'm
Mm.
like, I'm here to save your business. I'm here to help your business.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say that I'm not really like the fire. I'm not the wood to make a fire. I would consider myself the lighter fluid to make the fire here. Right. So like you need to have your own fire first. And I'm here to just make that fire bigger. But if you have no smoke and no flame, I mean, it's really hard for me to come in and just save your business. I am not a business consultant. I'm a marketing expert.
Mm-hmm. And even a business consultant isn't save it, like, they're there to give you advice on how to also help you. I think that a lot of
Yeah,
people are really looking for miracles sometimes when
they
they need to
really
look
are.
inwards.
They really are. I can't even tell you how many times I've had clients that just have bad products, bad services, bad customer, support, sales cycles that are broken. If I drive 100 leads, they're not closing any of the business, and I find out that they don't even have sales reps calling these leads. And I'm just like, okay, you're obviously not going to perform well. So just a lot of times the businesses look at us a little bit in a different light. And I think it's causes some friction between the relationship. But clients that, go back to my ICP clients that have had agencies in the past, have ran marketings in the past, understand the basic fundamentals, they're not going to fall into those pitfalls, right? They're not going to fall into those traps of like, oh, Cory is to save the business. It's like, no, Cory's here to supplement and support my business, which I think is a big differentiation.
Yes, exactly. I think that, a lot of people, are very happy to have a new service that they think is going to, jumpstart their leads. But I think that that is, you need to have a good service most first and foremost,
Yep.
but you also
Yep.
need to be confident in your work. I think
Yep.
that you can have something great, but if you're not selling it well, then it doesn't really matter. And
Yeah.
putting everything in the right way and getting to the right people is only part of that process. They need to be able to convert them.
Yep. Absolutely. You need to have product and service conviction, right? And I think when clients have that, guess what? It rubs off onto us. Now I'm excited because I believe in the product or I believe in the service. And now I'm feeling more, empowered and passionate about marketing that person's product or service because I believe in it myself. Maybe I'm even a customer at that point, right? I use my own client's products because I believe in the product and I have conviction for that product and I'm going to do better marketing the product.
And it's exciting. You don't even have to be the countless amount of businesses that I hear marketing agencies focus on that I think is like, how can you be excited about this? Objectively, this seems like a boring business to
Yep.
constantly interact with, but then
Yep.
you see the unique ways in which they're inspired by it. And I just love seeing that because it's so interesting. Like, I personally, if I'm not interested in a product, I don't see myself being able to market it well because
Exactly.
how are you, like, what unique and creative ways are you going to make in order to sell something that you don't even like? It's not going to. You can create baseline structural plans that objectively work for every business on in general, but at the same time, that is not what's going to really create results that people want. It's
Exactly.
just gonna,
Exactly.
maybe be something steady that isn't really exciting or anything to really,
Yeah.
you know.
And then I feel that's how you build a partnership as well, because then we're both excited about the same thing. We have like-minded goals. We want to grow together. I think that's one of the benefits too of working in a small agency like myself is that my goals are already inherently baked in because I want to grow as an agency too. So I know that if my clients grow, guess what? I'm growing also, right? I get to
Mhm.
hire more people. Maybe I get to charge them more money. I get to offer more services. I mean, there's so many parallels there that I know if my clients are successful, my success will follow suit versus like a big agency that might have like a client like, I don't know, Coca-Cola or Chobani or Weight Watchers or something where their growth isn't really going to reflect the agency's growth because they're already such a big, Fortune 500 conglomerate or something like that.
Mhm.
Versus a small business who, grows from 1 million to 2 million. Well, everyone's going to feel that growth, the agency included.
Yeah, and everyone's gonna be excited about it because they can see that they're directly
It's very,
correlated with that growth.
it's very palpable.
Yeah, it's nice to see your work pay off, whereas, if you're working with such a major corporation, then you sometimes don't even know. There's so many different things that can happen with that.
Yep.
So it's nice to be able to see like how you directly impact their sales.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a trade-off because those big corporations also aren't so looking at data like under the microscope. They're
Mhm.
really just caring more about the budget. Hey, spend that budget, hit these certain metrics, and that's it. Small businesses, though, and medium-sized businesses, they are watching it like a hawk. They are looking at the data. They are looking at every dollar accounted for. So it does definitely have its trade-off. Sometimes I feel that working with a small business is actually harder just because everything is so, you know, set up and, you're looking at the data with such granular focus because, 9 times out of 10, I'm also working with the actual business owner, right? The person who actually runs the company versus maybe just a marketing manager at a giant corporation where they're just another cog in a wheel versus an actual business owner who this is their. But again, that also creates a better relationship because now it's business owner to business owner, right? And I want his business to succeed or her business to succeed, just like I want my own business to succeed. A great story I'll tell you on a quick tangent here is when I was first starting my career, I remember doing something extra for one of my clients and just getting like a pat on the back. The client didn't care. And then
Mhm.
I start my own business and I do the exact same type of thing. And I remember the client telling me at the end of the year, this was probably in 2020, she said, Cory, because of your hard work this year, I was able to put more Christmas gifts under my kid's Christmas tree this year. I was able to go on another vacation with my husband. And to me, that was more rewarding than anything I've ever done for like these big Fortune 500 companies. Saving up Weight Watchers $50,000 doesn't matter compared to helping a small business owner, buy their kids more Christmas gifts, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm not curing cancer. I'm not saving lives here, but I am helping a small business, right? I am helping a small business grow in the state of Texas. And I think that is super rewarding. And that is something that I cling on to and keep doing what I'm doing all the time because, those types of situations are more rewarding than anything I've experienced in my prior career.
I think that's wonderful. And to even add on to the difficulty of, you know, analyzing data so closely because you have to in order to increase this revenue and create a perfect plan. I think there's also a lot more risk in dealing with a smaller, medium-sized businesses because there's more to lose when a campaign fails. And
Right.
I think that when you care, which, I hope that most agencies do, I know that there's a lot out there that don't, that you have more on the line. Like you want to see success not only because, it's great to have a happy client and to get a referral and whatever comes of that, but to be able to know that they're good because of you. Like they're going to continue to gain revenue and be happy and like they're not going to lose their business. I mean, that's not directly correlated with everything that you do. Obviously, there's so many factors that go into that, but to, you know, create a campaign that epically fails for a small business that really depended on it is awful. It's an awful feeling
Yep.
and because of the constantly changing marketing, you can create a great plan and it still fail. And like
Yep.
everyone is susceptible to it. I talked to a lot of marketing agencies that have discussed it and
Yeah.
have mentioned it. It's not no one's perfect even if they have a great plan, but so there's so much more I think accountability to working with a
True.
small business. If you're not the worst person in the world that doesn't care if they succeed or don't and you're
Yeah.
just looking to get a check or whatever it may be. But yeah, I truly think that working with small businesses, the payoff is good, but it's also you it's almost more pressure
It is
because
more
there
pressure.
you see a real person in front of you
Yeah.
and not just a company that like if this marketing campaign fails, they're still making millions and
They
maybe
show up
billions
to
of dollars.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's 100% more pressure. You're absolutely right. And, I kind of believe that it's actually more important to know what is failing than what is succeeding, right?
Mhm.
Because to your point, that campaign that failed, okay, and we need to pivot, adjust, re-strategize, go back to the drawing board. It's the things that work. That's easy. You just keep the lights on that one, right? Campaign A is running, great. no changes. Campaign B is failing. Okay, let's figure this out and why, right? So it's actually more important, in my opinion, to know what's not working than what is working. And just to address your point on, the pressure that you feel and just kind of like the attitude that I have versus like maybe someone at a big agency. Another quick story is I have an employee who was supposed to launch a campaign and didn't. And, there's a bunch of challenges. It wasn't necessarily his fault. Lots of different challenges like getting this campaign launched. But the point is that, about 10 or 15 days went by and I said to this employee, hey, did we launch this campaign yet? And, the answer was no. And then the employee said to me, well, we put in the hours. So the client got their money, the money's worth. And I just looked at the employee and I said, do you want me to tell the client that? Do you want me to go back to them and say, hey, sorry, this campaign didn't launch, but we did put in the hours. So you still owe us money. And, that might be the right mindset at a big agency, but at a small business, at a small agency, that's not really the mindset. That's not the culture that I'm trying to create either. Right. I want my employees and my team to have a personal care for their clients, really push the envelope and be passionate about what they're doing and take pride in what they're doing. It's very easy to get assets on a Friday and then just tell the client this won't launch on Monday because they don't want to work on the weekend. Right. Mm-hmm. But, if that client has a big anniversary sale and that sale really matters to them, I want my team to have their own pride and passion to go do this themselves without me even asking, right? I'm not going to be like, hey, to work on a Sunday. I want them out of their own volition to work on a Sunday. 20 minutes, traffic the campaign, get it ready for a Monday launch, and you will, create such a good relationship with that client moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean you can't tell the client, hey, next time, please make sure you get me these assets on Wednesday so that I don't have to work on the weekend for next time. Like for that one scenario, we're going to do this for you. And it's going to separate us from the rest because now that client knows that we have their best interest at heart and that, when push comes to shove, we're going to get the job done. And I think that's actually a good segue to one of my core values, which, anybody can see on my website. We call it the 3 T's. And the 3 T's are just like our mission statement, right? It's what we embody and, when we make decisions here at Lockern. And those 3 T's are technology, transparency, and tenacity. And I think what I've just been describing for the last 10 minutes is really following those, other 2 T's, the transparency and the tenacity, right? To work on the weekend, to be transparent with the client, to let them know what's wrong and what's not working and so on and so forth. I think that's what really separates me, at least I hope so, is what separates me from the other agencies out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind, all of those things. And I really think that, well, one, it's really great to see how much you care about your clients. I really do think that's very obvious. And I like to see that the more agencies that I talk to that are like, I can see the genuine care ooze out of them whilst they're talking about their clients. I really enjoy seeing that, and I'm happy to see it more. I think that there was maybe a time where it wasn't as common. So I'm happy to really hear that. So thank you so much for sharing. Because I hope that inspires other people to think the same and with the same care. And I also think that it's really important to note that you touched on it a little bit ago, about saying, still being transparent with a client of, oh, maybe get these to me on time so that we don't have to work on the weekend. I think that even if you're willing to go the extra mile for the client, which if you care, a lot of people I hope would and want to, I think that it's very important to establish boundaries. And I think that's another thing that especially agencies that care have a very difficult time grappling with, because especially if it's your baby, you've created it too, and you're so heavily involved with accounts at that point in time. I think that it's very difficult for people to actually, stop working when they're supposed to and devote time to other things and not get overloaded and then burnt out and not be inspired and passionate about what they're doing. So
absolutely.
I do enjoy
you don't want
that
to start a precedent either, right? So if I do this on the weekend, now the client's thinking, oh, Cory will work on every Sunday. Who cares? Always have the assets later, take advantage of him or something like that. So you don't want to set those precedents, but you want to you're absolutely correct, set some clear expectations and boundaries. But that doesn't mean that you still can't go that extra mile for the client when you need to, right? When push comes to shove, we're tenacious. We'll get the job done. I like to say a lot of the times, it's kind of like work hard, play hard. I know that's a cliche thing, but it really does matter here. My team could be having fun and goofing off and doing something, fun. But then, when it's time to work, we get to work, right? And we get the job done and we make sure that our clients are happy and satisfied. And I also believe that, performance is kind of uncontrollable. Performance comes and goes. We're going to have good months. We're going to have bad months. It's inevitable. If clients think that they're going to come on board with me and it's just going to be up, 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 up indefinitely, well, then they're going to be, probably disappointed at some point.
Yeah, that's impossible to
we are going to
guarantee.
have down months, right? We're going to have down months. We could even have a down quarter. But what I think the reason why clients stay is because of all the other factors, right? The integrity, the passion, the genuineness, the fact that we care, the fact that we feel like our partner, I want to feel an extension of their team and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's so important. There is a definitely a line that you have to make sure that you don't cross in a certain way with how you're dealing with a client and how you communicate with them, and make sure that both of you are on the same page and satisfied. I think that there are some clients that may be pushy and expect more of you than what you should be giving and able to. There's going the extra mile, but then there's going the extra several miles that
Yeah.
you're not, you're out of breath at that point. So you just have to be able to manage things so that both people are happy, but you also have to set expectations of the impossible and what you can actually do. And I think that some clients are expecting the impossible, and that's something that needs to be clarified probably as early as possible in order to, not disappoint, or at least, maybe disappoint in the beginning and maybe you lose that client, but at least you're not running yourself rampant trying to please someone that is never going to be pleased.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so important to set those expectations. I mean, we set them right on day one on the kickoff call, right? And we'll be like, hey, this is what you can expect for the next 3 to 4 weeks, right? Because some clients might think, oh, why are my ads not up in 3 days? Or why am I not seeing results after, a couple of days? And I'm like, well, that's not how it works. There's learning periods, there's the ads up. We also don't like to do anything without client approval. So I'll never launch a campaign without them seeing it first, seeing the ad copy, seeing the keyword strategy, all that type of stuff. So, that stuff takes time. But at the same time, I also want to reassure them that we're not dragging our feet and it's not going to take 30 days or something like that to get a campaign up. It's just, you got to give us, some patience as we first get started here.
Yeah, no, I think that, well, one, we're a little over time, so I think this is a perfect note to end on, because
Sure.
I think that everyone should be able to get advice from, setting boundaries. I think that is one of the most important things in all workspaces with with a client base, is that you need to understand and set clear expectations that are realistic. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts about
You're
this. I
welcome.
really
Yeah, thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me. It was
And
great. Happy to be
yeah,
here.
thank you so much for joining me today. In general, all the advice that you shared, I think that a lot of people will gain a lot of knowledge from this. And I really appreciate you sharing everything that you've learned. Especially really great to talk to someone who is earlier on, but you've succeeded in your 5-year mark. So I really appreciate it. But it's a very good perspective for a lot of people who are even just the average business owner, maybe not even owning an agency, to be able to learn from you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And if anybody else on this, listening to this podcast wants to reach out to me, they can find me on LinkedIn, Cory Botti, and also my website, lockerndigital.com. So they're more than happy to reach out to me there as well.
Thank you so much. And that'll also be included in the bio. So thank you so much, everyone watching or listening. And yeah, you can definitely find Cory below if you click any of the links. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day. And thank you for watching or listening.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.